Hey Global Village, what's up? Okay, I wanted to make another little video about the channel Predictive History. And before I let loose on my criticisms here, I just want to make it clear that I actually really like this channel, and I am working my way through his old videos just because I genuinely believe there's a tremendous amount I can learn from what this guy has to offer. So I just want to make sure that it is in that context that you understand that I'm making this criticism. So having said that, there are some things about what he's talking about and the way he's framing things that I think are very problematic. And just because someone is able to offer and add a lot of value in terms of you being able to grow your own knowledge base and be able to hopefully make more sense out of the world. And in this case, specifically, I think just learning to understand the principles of game theory better and how you can use that as another tool to understand the chaos that's actually going on across the globe right now. Well, that's got to be a good thing. But the danger is that you become wedded to a specific way of thinking, and in doing that, you effectively become a kind of ideologue, or you become ideologically captured. And I don't want to overuse that term, but I think it's a very, very relevant expression that is happening right across the gamut of opinions that people have about a lot of things going on. And in this particular case, there's just a couple of things that I really want to clarify. One of them is I'm going to slightly relitigate something I said, I think, in a previous video, but I just want to make it a little more clear. And that comes to his opinion about the conflict between America, Israel, and Iran. Now, when America escalated to drop its bunker buster bombs on Iran's nuclear sites, I just want you to listen to the professor's rhetoric here. So I'm just going to play it.
Hi YouTube, good morning from Toronto on a very muggy day. As you know, last night Trump ordered the bombing of 3 Iranian nuclear facilities, and this will mark the beginning of World War III. So I have both good news and bad news. The bad news is we are now approaching the end of the world. The good news is this morning I will tell you how the world will end.
Okay, so I just wanted to give you that opening frame there because clearly this was incredibly hyperbolic language to use. But the point I'm just want to make here is he was absolutely convinced that at this particular point there was really no turning back, and we were heading down the gun barrel of World War III. Now, to give a little bit more context, and you can certainly go and watch his videos to corroborate what I'm saying here. And by the way, I will link to this video and also to his latest video because they're very relevant to the criticisms I want to make. His position is that Iran were, in a sense, equally hungry to escalate this conflict and this building, what he's ostensibly calling World War III, and that Iran would essentially be a willing participant in actually making this happen. And the essence of his position is that the Iranian leadership is extremely religiously, ideologically motivated, and that they effectively want to see a conflict occur between themselves and the imperial Western forces, because they just, I guess, for reasons of morality and just because of their religious sentiment and how they feel that obligates them to engage in this conflict. Now, I don't actually agree with that. I think the position that frames Iran as just this, as he effectively terms it, as religious fanatics, I think there's more nuance than that. And I don't actually believe that the current Iranian regime wants a war with the United States or the greater Western world, because I think the Iran leadership correctly understands that it would be absolutely devastating for their country and there would ultimately be no winners. You can't just associate. I think it is just a gross simplification, bordering on almost sort of racist stereotyping of Iran to frame them in that narrative. Now, I understand that when you look back historically, that when Iran toppled the Shah and, became a country that was strongly sort of, the leadership was very much, a religious sort of sect, effectively, that had taken over from the Shah, who was essentially a Western puppet serving, American objectives and goals. Now, I can definitely agree with that, but I think, that was, 20 or so years ago, and Iran certainly hasn't been, trying to actually engage in warfare. It's actually been Iran that's been absolutely ostracized and framed as, this despotic regime that just wants war and violence in the region. And I just don't think that framing holds water. I don't think it's reasonable. And so anyway, of course, as we now know, Iran showed incredible restraint based on the level of provocation that was put upon it. And what we ended up with was what they ostensibly called the 12-day war before it was all over and done with. And, Iran's response to America's dropping of bombs was to fire some telegraphed missiles towards a US base in Qatar after giving them clear warning that they were going to do so. So, it was very performative and was designed to de-escalate. Now, he did come back afterwards and then say, well, why didn't this actually escalate in the way that he was kind of implying it would do here? Was that he decided that Iran realized they just want to play for time, and that that was a strategic move, and that they still essentially are very much, want a war, but they want it on their terms, which is to say they want to wage an asymmetrical war in which America invades Iran and eventually has to put boots on the ground. Now, if America were to do that, I would agree 100% that it would be an absolute quagmire, and it would make what happened in Iraq look like a picnic. Iran is extremely inhospitable, mountainous terrain, and Iran would have a big upper hand when dealing with, a ground invasion. There's no question about that. But I still don't think that what he's saying here, I don't agree with the position. I just don't believe that Iran wants this conflict. I believe it's actually America, evangelicals in America, for example, Christian Zionism wants to see this escalate because they see it as part of bringing on the oncoming battle. I can't remember the exact. They have a name for this war. It escapes me right now, but it's all part of their religious doctrine, which is the only reason they believe in the Zionist state, because they actually see Israel falling. So it's all a bit bizarre, really. But anyway, I just wanted to relitigate that part again. And the other thing I wanted to point out was, in his latest video, he used language in a way that I feel is quite reckless. And because he is a professor, I think there is an expectation that you're going to be a little bit more careful about your use of words, and that you don't abuse those words. Now, in his latest video, he was talking primarily about Canada and, why Canada is, in his view, ultimately destined to just be consumed into the American empire. And he was talking about what is the sort of belief systems within Canada at the moment, and he really framed them as a series of religious articles of faith. And one of those articles of faith, he said one of the religions in Canada is their deep commitment to environmental concerns and preserving the environment. Now, I personally take quite offence to that. Framing a society's commitment to environmental protection as a form of religion, using it in a way that you could really only describe as a sort of pejorative framing, is just reckless and unfair and very inaccurate. And to sort of clarify what I mean here, you have to be careful about how you use the term religion and just in terms of what it actually means. And I can highlight this by using an example here. If you were to listen to a debate between a flat earther and someone who represents a belief in the globe, you will often hear a flat earther claim that people who believe in the globe are effectively praying at the church of science, and that they're, beholden to a sort of a dogmatic belief in the scientific method. Now, this is a terrible abuse of the word religion, to frame people that way, and it's almost a bizarre form of projection, because in point of fact, it is wrong to say someone has a religious faith in science, because the whole idea about science is that it holds itself accountable, and that if it doesn't meet the standards of the scientific method, and that if a theory that you propose simply isn't supported by the evidence and by robust experimentation, then that becomes a discredited theory, and you have to go and look for something better. So it's very wrong to compare that to, say, religious belief, where you're effectively guided by dogmatic faith in some tenets that you adhere to because essentially a higher power told you that that's what you have to do, and that it is in fact, the act of a heretic to oppose or challenge these articles of faith. Now, when it comes back to environment, I think there are strong rational reasons why one would choose to have a strong belief that protecting the environment is actually a form of the behaviour of a rational actor. Now, it may not serve the individual in the span of their own lifetime. It may even be of disservice to protect the environment. But in the long term, for the betterment of humanity as a whole, there's obvious and clear rationale for being in support of protecting the environment, and not pursuing instant gratification through monetizing mining, burning of coal, etc., because of the greater long-term good. So, yeah, I just wanted to get that off my chest, because I do not like the way he used that framing at all, and I think it was quite reckless to do so. So at the end of the day, I guess the take-home lesson here is that I do think his channel is good. I do think his videos are well worth watching, and I think there's a lot to learn from them. But it doesn't mean you should just accept everything everyone says. And like all of us, and no doubt like myself as well, we are to a degree guided by our own subjective bias and prejudice, which are going to lead us to make conclusions which don't always follow if you want to take a potentially more objective look at what you're actually trying to assert. So we should always be trying to challenge, I guess, others and ourselves as well in terms of what we believe to be true. Anyway, that's all I had to say on that. Bendy out.